Hi everybody, how's schmozzles? Yes, I am incredibly professional here, as we have all made, but hopefully everyone can see that I have pressed the right buttons. I hope.
You could work in Star Trek. You could be like in Starfleet. That's all. It's all about pressing the right buttons.
Okay, everyone. This is Scientist Mel, who is there.
Hello.
Who are you, Scientist Mel?
Oh, don't get me started on an existential crisis in the middle of the show.
Well, we're at the beginning, so we're close enough.
At the beginning. Okay, so I'm an academic, educator, communicator, science person. I do science communication. I also do talks. I make content for teachers. Recently wrote an online chemistry course for a local college.
Nice.
So that was really great. So I stream on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I believe, if this starts out, you'll be on my show on Sunday at this time talking about the second half of Prager U.
That's all right. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I just want to say a bit of housekeeping. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to my mods. Oh my goodness. Oh, everyone can hear us. All right, let me know if you can't hear us when I start playing the video. So anyway, what was I saying? Okay, a bit of housekeeping. I have been monetized recently, which is hooray, exciting. However, with YouTube, any super chats that we do takes like a month to get in, and YouTube takes a third of the super chat. So if you do want to super chat, like, feel free to super chat. But if you want, you can find at the bottom of the stream that you can send it to me via PayPal, my PayPal link, and you can also find it in the description. That would be better because I get it immediately, and a third of it doesn't go to a giant corporation. But at this,
they're terrible.
It is terrible. But if you don't even have to do that either. I'm just saying, if you do feel like doing that, that's my preferred thing. And that's pretty much it. Already I'm saying don't read the chat. Oh dear. Oh dear. So,
oh my goodness, it's fine. Everybody's fine. They're all hugging. They're hugging. But social distance hugging.
Yeah, they're sort of like high-fiving. They're kind of doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah, high five. What's up?
Okay, so yeah, if you want to send me a message or anything, just tag me. It's like, I'm not stressed and whatever you do. Okay, that's basically all the housekeeping. Don't forget to subscribe to Scientist Mel or me if you haven't subscribed. Like, share, all the good things. Shill away. I can see that Amiga Nuts is in the side chat, and they do an amazing job at shilling. So, yes. Anyway.
Friendly nuts.
And they're nuts.
Amiga means friend.
Yeah,
so my friend nuts. My friendly nuts.
Friendly nuts.
Could be construed lots of ways.
It could be. We've already had a conversation about testicles, so we need more of them.
Why not?
But that's not for today. Today we are going to talk about why Prager U is wrong about COVID-19. And there's multiple reasons why they are wrong. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, I'm just All right, there we go.
The problem with the spike in cases is not from restaurants that are all social distancing. The problem is not retail outlets. The problem was massive groups of people throughout the country not socially distancing, exposing themselves. So the average age right now of the new cases that we're seeing is about 31 years old. Those are the folks that have an easy...
So this is them kind of just talking, like going, oh, this is what he's going to be talking about. So I might actually skip this bit.
Yeah.
Because...
Let me preempt all of this. I found some information about Dr. Barke. Or Barke. Is it Barke or Barke?
I have no idea. Hang on.
Either way, we need a watchdog on him. So I found information. I think this is the same doctor in California, but he's been sued for overprescribing medications that caused the death of another person through overdose. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't think that that's a common thing that doctors get sued for. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Not too confident about Dr. Barke, doctor.
I don't know. Okay. Already, Ricardo. I'm sorry, Ricardo. I'm just going to ruin your last name. You need to tell me in the chat how to pronounce your last name.
I think it's Oliveira.
Oliveira.
Is it Oliveira?
Hopefully. The first
Oliveira.
sentence of the video description should have stopped after the word wrong. Yeah, pretty much. All right.
Physician. I've been in private practice for over 30 years. Looking forward to talking with you today about some of the COVID-19 realities and...
I have got it on 1.75 because that's listening to Prager U in normal is painful.
Myths.
Let's do this. Do you want to explain what this is?
I will. So we've got a FDA authorized antibody test that tests for two things. Antibodies from the past, were you exposed to COVID-19 and are you now immune? Or current antibodies, is your body actively fighting off an infection? So that's IgG, memory antibody.
Okay. I don't know where he's getting his information, but my understanding is that you don't diagnose based on antibodies. That's a very bad idea. You have to diagnose on an actual live virus. I have antibodies for all kinds of things, but that doesn't mean that I'm actively infectious or I have a current infection. You use the PCR test. The difference between the two, antibodies is I've had this before, therefore I have antibodies. Okay. And PCR is, do you have the genetic code of the virus? And there's a short window in order to test for PCR, which is usually within 10 days is pushing it, but you want to hit it within 7 days because as the virus, the viral load's going to diminish once you start developing antibodies. So to try to base a diagnosis just on antibodies is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's not a definitive proof to show that you have a live and currently active infection. I mean, that's literally when you go, okay, ladies, when you get your cervical, your pap smear, and they want to test to see if you get an abnormal one, they want to see if you have HPV. They do a PCR test. You can have antibodies for HPV. Everybody probably does. But if you have an active infection, they have to look for the genetic code. He's wrong already. I'm just saying. Prager poo.
If you don't know what PCR is, I've done a video on it, which is actually not very well watched, so I can't find it. But I do actually talk. The title is COVID-19 man-made? So if you're curious about what PCR is, go and watch that. Go and watch that video for more information.
And IgM, current acute antibodies. So it's a finger stick test, and the results are in about 10 minutes.
I'm horrible at these.
Is that right? The results are within 10 minutes?
It depends on the sensitivity of the test. So when you're testing for an antibody test, they can do lots of different things. So you would have like a strip that would have the particular proteins that you would see on the outside of the virus. They would coat a strip with that, okay? And then if you have the antibodies, they kind of fit like a lock and key thing. Those antibodies will attach to those particular proteins, and then they hit it with like a dye, and it lights up. And so if the color is there, if they're like, hey, we see there's colors showing up for this particular antibody, then that means you have been exposed to the virus. Usually one way that they do it is flow cytometry. He might have a strip there to where it has the proteins, and then he just puts his blood on there, and then he can run a dye over it that would attach to those antibodies. And if they happen to still be on that strip, then that means he's positive for having been exposed to it. So you could possibly do it in 10 minutes if the test is set up appropriately to where it's like that kind of setup. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Okay.
These needle things, anything like this, but I'll be fine.
This is a painless lancet. Oh my gosh. Close up of Will.
Okay, I'm just gonna be mean. They're all Prager U is all about being manly and stuff like that. And he got stabbed, and he's like, and I'm like,
oh, yeah. Just let him have menstrual cramps. Just kick him in the jimmy like a couple of times and show him some real pain.
Stuck in Florida goes, last live stream I watched was about one of my favorite subjects, snakes. This one is about one of my least favorite things, Prager useless. Stuck in Florida,
They're
you're
pretty
amazing.
awful.
But don't worry. Let's turn a terrible thing into a good thing. You're going to learn a lot of science. You're going to be learning a lot of ways to debunk a lot of the stuff that we have been fed by people. And you get to see the amazing scientist Mel, and you get to see me, which is me.
Stop it.
All right. Anyway, but no, I can see why he's like, ow, that hurts, but I don't know. It's just like,
yeah, I really would just want to, instead of his name Will, I want to call him Chad. He just looks like a Chad, you know?
He does have Harry Potter glasses, though, if you can see up there.
Yeah, but he's kind of basic, you know? He's kind of basic.
I'm about to.
It only takes
so bad.
Right? Only takes
Screw
a little
you,
drop
Notcher.
of blood. It's red,
Okay, Mel,
folks.
great
It's
to
red.
see someone
Can you
actually
see that?
start
I do
smart
have
on
red blood.
Mero's
It's
channel
amazing.
for once.
Draw a little blood.
And now people are coming in. You do this in like people's cars.
Don't be mean, Nasha.
Usually not the finger stick. So you hold that and put a little pressure on it.
Finger stick.
And now we
Well,
get
you know,
results
I do see a couple
in
of
about
pricks
10
there, so
minutes.
it's all right.
Actually, it's usually a lot quicker than that.
And it'll tell me
Are you
whether or
premenstrual or
not I
something?
have
You are
the antibodies.
sassy.
It will tell us whether or not you have antibodies, either memory antibodies or acute antibodies, meaning that your body is currently fighting something
The likelihood
off.
that you
So we'll set this
acute,
here.
Okay. So you do have your initial immune response, and then you have your more selective immune response. So it's like, if he's talking about the initial immune response, you could have that going on at any time. Whether, you know, you could have allergies and have antibodies develop to a degree for that. I mean, it's just, I need to look into more of that stuff. But from what I've seen so far with the COVID-19 test, they don't have what he says that they do. There's no, you have antibodies to show you have it. That's not how you do it. I'm trying to not get punchy.
Fair enough.
All right, we'll let that sit there for a few minutes, and we'll find out.
Do I have like tape or anything? Or I just got to keep.
No, you just hold it for maybe a couple minutes, and then you're good to just throw
Has
it
he
away.
never been to the doctor?
Well,
Are we
Probably
going to
not.
tape my finger?
No, probably not, because it is America.
Yeah, it's too expensive. That's true.
I would shake your hand, but now I can't shake your hand. We have to do left hand.
Yeah, left-handed shake.
But I really appreciate you being.
No. Just no. Okay. Just don't shake your hands.
Yes, next touch your face. Rub it all over there. Sort that out.
Being here, Dr. Barke. Gavin Newsom in California just said now we're going to shut down the restaurants again in a lot of California counties. Is this a good move that they're trying to shut down the economy again?
You know, I think it's a terrible idea. We have to remember that initially when this virus came on, we were told we were going to shut down the economy temporarily, and the purpose of doing that was to so-called flatten the curve. And the idea was that we were worried about
Prager poo-poo. Okay, so the problem is this. People didn't do 100% what they were supposed to. I live in an area where people still don't wear masks. Masks were not required. They only shut down a few things, and then we had essential workers, and then they started, it's like, okay, well, we're going to let the minimum wage people go back. People were still not adhering to social distancing. There were people still not listening, not staying home. Recently, churches were still open. Pastors have been dying who've died, who thought, oh, this isn't real. So no, we flattened the curve a little bit, but then we quit doing that because, it's very American to just get bored with a thing and just say, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore. So, hey, we'll just handle it. It's fine. But that's not, we were supposed to stay home for a couple of months, not do going out, things like that. But not everybody did that. And that's the problem. So he's right about large gatherings. That still happened. And that perpetuated of keeping this around. So screw you, Dr. Barke. You're wrong.
And also, like for example, my state in Australia, we shut down. And we've had one new case the other day, and that was a fly-in. And they're in hotel quarantine. But we haven't had a new case in weeks. Because what did we do? We shut down. Everyone was like, yep, no, we understand what's going on. We know how this works. And we all shut down. We all did the social distancing. We all, there wasn't a mandatory mask thing going on. But I did see a couple of people wear masks, and which was really good. But we didn't really need to do it because we understood and we worked together as a society. But America didn't. So
yeah, I didn't. I did, but I'm not America. I'm a single person screaming into the void, going, "Wear a freaking mask now! Look what y'all did."
All right, let's keep going.
Healthcare capacity, in particular New York, for a time in New Jersey, for a time even up in Seattle. The hospitals seem to be overwhelmed by cases of COVID.
They're overwhelmed right now. Mississippi, for example, is at pushing around 90% capacity. Tennessee is about 87% capacity. They are getting close. That's just in the South, and I'm in the South. They're getting close to being completely full. And what Dr. Barke doesn't want to tell you is that once all of the beds are full, people who get in car accidents, people who have injuries on the job, people who have injuries while staying at home, fire, it doesn't matter. You're going to be sitting on the floor in the hallway, dying, waiting for a freaking room. So it's not going to be just COVID-19 patients. And Dr. Barke, I don't even know. I'm just calling Dr. B, whatever. Dr. B here is downplaying how serious that is. He's like, well, they're almost full, but not really. No, they are really they're near close to capacity at this point. And a lot of states have increased their daily infection rates by 50%. 50% in a day, up that much, to the point other states are not allowing certain states to come to them. If you're from a particular state, you're not allowed in. That's happening in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, there's a spike in Victoria, which is a state in Australia, and people have just, other states have just closed their border to Victoria because, it takes, in this case, it was like 2 people were sharing cigarettes or something like that. I'm not entirely sure where this whole story is. I just haven't really been paying too much attention to it. But I do know, but it's like all it requires is just one infected person to slip through quarantine, and you've got the whole state shut down. The whole state has been shut down. That's how serious this is. All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Coming into the hospital. We're going to shut down the economy, let healthcare capacity come back online, then we would open up the economy. Well, that's happened. There's plenty of healthcare capacity now.
Yeah.
We know.
No, there's
No!
No, there's not. I'm due for like my annual, and I'm not going to go to the doctor because I don't want to be around other people who might have what could be a lethal strain of the virus. And he's not even getting into that. I think there's at least 14 different versions of COVID-19 right now, and one is so virulent that the people who had this particular strain had 200 times more of a viral load than people with another. Jeez. So, I mean, it's an RNA virus. You expect it to mutate, and it's not mutated enough to where the outside of it is changed. That means a vaccine is possible, but you get one of those more virulent strains, you're going to be in the hospital. I don't care how healthy you are. 200 times the viral load. A kid, young adult, no pre-existing conditions, it's putting them in the hospital. And Dr. B here is dishonest.
Vesta Freya says the US has been successful, flatten the curve. It has become a vertical line. Yeah.
Y equals mx plus b, man. We can get the trend.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Well, that's happened. There's plenty of healthcare capacity now.
No! Sorry.
We know a lot more about the virus, who gets it, how to treat it, who's at risk. So there's no reason to continue to shut down the economy.
Shall I let you rant or shall I?
Have at it, man. I should probably take a breath and drink.
Okay, let's be honest with people here. If there is one infected person, the entire economy is at risk. Okay, this is a very contagious disease. It also is a weird disease in the way it behaves, in the way it's extremely long asymptomatic but infectious time. Like, you can't just go, oh yeah, only 2% of the population has it, we'll be fine, let's open it up and pretend that everything's hunky-dory. You can't actually do it with an infectious disease like this, because it's not like AIDS, it's not like Ebola, it's not like those diseases where it's easy, like not as easy to be transferred.
I'm doing math. So there's approximately, let's say 300 million people in the U.S. 2% is 6 million people.
That's
2% is 6 million people. We're all going to get it. Trust me. Until there's a vaccine, we will all get one version of this type of virus. That's going to happen at this point. But which version are you going to get? And the idea is to not everybody get it all at once because we're 6 million people. A friend of mine, Doc Savage, works in immunology and immunotherapy, helped develop vaccines, including the HPV vaccine. He regularly talks with me. He worked on pandemic response, early pandemic response. He's like, we're looking at 1 million deaths in the U.S., possibly by the time this over, minimum of 1 million in the U.S., minimum by the time this never-ending first wave is over, minimum. But we'll hit probably 2. So
yeah.
We'll be
like, we can't, even though, as I said, in my state, we haven't had a case for a couple of weeks, except for that one fly-in where and hotel quarantine and all that jazz. We are still socially distancing. We are still we're still sort of doing the things that we need to do to prevent the spread of COVID-19, even though there is a very, very, very small chance that my state, like someone in my state, will get it, because there is that chance. There is still that chance with somebody from New South Wales comes up over the border who is asymptomatic. You can't just go, oh, okay, well, only X amount of people, let's hunky-dory, let's just go back to where it's normal. We can't do that until there's a vaccine and there is mass vaccinations. We just cannot do that.
No, and then you consider, how many people would die from that. Oh yeah, well, it's just the really sick people or the ones who have pre-existing. That's still a lot of people. I mean, do you know how many bodies can be buried in a football field? I mean, that's where we're going to get at soon in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they were keeping bodies in freaking meat locker trucks in New York City.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to get to the point where you're just going to be chucking bodies onto a bonfire or something like that.
It's going to be a Monty Python movie. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be. Unfortunately, that's where we're going to go.
Unfortunately, well, the thing is that the US already is a Monty Python movie, by the way. But anyway, let's keep going.
What a healthy society should do, and this is what we've done historically in the past, we should protect the most vulnerable. Older folks, nursing home patients, extended care facilities, and those with significant pre-existing conditions. So we should protect them.
Okay, I have a massive problem with that because the thing with COVID-19 is that, okay, these are the people who are going to die, and we put a lot of emphasis on the death of people. But the fact of the matter is, COVID-19 causes morbidity. So there's morbidity and more mortality. Mortality is when you die, but morbidity is where you get sick but recover. And the morbidity and the effects of COVID-19 on people who have recovered from it is huge. People have higher chance of getting vascular diseases such as stroke, heart attack, things like that. Apparently, it's been attacking people's neurological systems. It's been causing people to have some very severe long-term I've heard of people who are still suffering the effects of COVID-19 3 months after they've recovered. So you can't just go, oh, let's try and stop people from dying because, people should, this is an awful disease and people should try and stop people from dying. Like, fair enough. But what about those people who recover yet still have ongoing long-term effects? Like, you just can't forget about those people because sometimes, like, some people might have lifetime long effects. Like, this is a brand new disease. We don't know what's going to happen. And it is possible people are still going to be suffering from the effects of COVID-19 15, 20 years later if it's permanent damage. So,
I mean, you're seeing, like you said, the neurological things are people who are having strokes from it, little mini strokes. And they're asymptomatic people having kidney problems because of the way that this virus is, the way that it enters into a cell, it affects, like, for instance, like the lining. You have a lot of the same lining in your lungs as you do around like your heart and your liver, and the receptors that this virus uses to enter into those cells are just about in every cell in your body. And so while it may be it may be primarily in your lungs, but if it spreads, it can attack multiple organs in your body because it enters in that particular, I forget the name of the pathway, but it's a receptor that you have in pretty much every cell in your body. And so it's able to infect just about every cell in your body. So if you have that worse strain, where that more virulent strain, where it can make more copies of itself more rapidly, and it takes time for your body to develop an immunity to it in order to neutralize those viruses, it can hit all freaking over. And if you're asymptomatic, you may not have any pain in your kidneys, or you may not have any pain in your heart or your brain or anything, or in your nervous system. And then all of a sudden, boom, something's not working right. And you're like, what the heck is going on? And then all of a sudden you're in the hospital with kidney failure. So this is not, he's painting this as only sick people get it. No, no.
And also I've heard people have actually come out with COVID-19 with diabetes, because it can also attack the pancreatic cells. So you type 1 diabetes. Like, we don't know what's going to happen to the body and as I said, this is a weird disease.
GI stuff. People could have like really bad GI stuff for a couple of months and be like, oh man, maybe I was just sick with the stomach flu that lasted 2 months. Or could it be the Rona? You know, so
Exactly.
You don't know. And with that much damage, you know, and your body having to make up for all those cells, the more your body undergoes the healing process, the more you age yourself, then you got the whole risk of earlier onset of what we call elderly cancer, you know? So it's a mess.
So there's a couple of questions. Stuttering Chris says, can vitamin D or zinc or any kind of immune boosting foods help? Do you want to...
I would say no, but I will say it's important to have a diverse diet so that you get proper nutrition, because if you don't have proper nutrition, then your body's not going to work as well as it could.
Yeah.
I guess that's the answer.
And does it cross the blood-brain barrier? I'm not sure.
I'm not certain if it does. If it's causing strokes, I think the strokes are from clots. I think the strokes are from clots that are occurring, but it can affect the nervous system. There are some people who have reported hallucinating and some dementia-like symptoms. So I don't know 100% if that's like any kind of blood pressure related issues from the virus. It's hard to know, but we do know. And there was a new study that came out to where there could be long-term effects for asymptomatic people where it's associated with neuro issues, neurology, whether it's brain and nervous systems and stuff like that. And also, if you happen to have a genetic predisposition for something awful, getting a terrible virus is a great way to turn that on.
Exactly.
Existing conditions, guess what? All of a sudden you got it because you had the gene, and this virus managed to switch that little bugger on for you.
Hooray, epigenetics.
Then folks that are sick, we should isolate or quarantine those people, but the rest of us, the young and the healthy, we should go about our business. There was never an expectation that we were going to prevent people from getting COVID-19. The deal was people would get the disease, but we want to mitigate the hospital problem.
Do you want to mention anything, or do you think we've covered that?
I think we covered that. I really want to print out a picture of him and put it on, like, because I've been working out more, I can probably get a punching bag. I made part of my kitchen to a gym because I can't go to the gym because the COVID. So yeah, so put a picture.
Matthew Randall says, why are you discussing anything from Prager U? They're always wrong. It is true, but also this is an opportunity for us to be able to educate people. We're using this more as an education tool rather than debunking Prager U. We're just using Prager U more as a conduit for us to be able to get accurate information that's scientifically based. So, yeah.
And we're making fun of them, guys, so it's okay.
Yeah. Also, if you can't see, it does go for 22 minutes, and I do recognize that we're already been going for half an hour. Don't worry, we're doing the first half on my channel, and on Sunday, everyone else's time, Monday, imaginary land time, the second half. So we'll be doing about 10 minutes worth of this because we can't torture our people. We can't torture people. All right, let's keep going.
Hospitals being overwhelmed. There's plenty of capacity in the hospitals. What we're seeing now with increased cases doesn't mean increased hospitalizations. That doesn't mean increased deaths.
Yeah, did you want to mention something?
Okay, I think he gets to a point to where he starts to say that the moment you test positive, they hospitalize you. No, that is not what happens. If you test positive, they send you home. They only hospitalize you if you're having symptoms associated with respiratory failure or organ failure or something to where that would require them to intervene to keep you alive. Just because you test positive does not mean they're going to hospitalize you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think what he was saying is that if you come in to get your shoulder checked out and you get test positive, that's considered to be a COVID hospitalization.
No, it's not. That's not what they do. That's not what they do. If you test positive and you don't have any symptoms, you're still going to be wearing a mask. They all wear a mask in there. They will send you home, quarantine you, see if you have any debilitating type of symptoms to where you'd have to come back in. And then they'll do another PCR test. And if your PCR test is negative, then that means your viral load is really low. So just really quick, what that means is if you don't have enough virus leaving their genetic code inside of your cells, then they can't pick it up. So what they're looking for is genetic code of the virus in infected cells. So if you don't have enough infective cells in order for them to detect the genetic code, then they don't count you as positive. But they don't do that because they can't use up those hospital resources and automatically, admit you because you test positive for COVID. I'm trying to not glaze over because I'm so furious.
Well, I do have to say, I do like creative insults, and Nathan Jasper put an amazing one. Dennis Prager is a pernicious fart-sniffing turd burger, and I thought that's beautiful.
That's very close to Deadpool swearing. I like Deadpool swearing. I try to Deadpool swear.
Yeah, Stuttering Chris, very good question. If COVID is so horrible, how do people survive? A lot of people don't. All right, let's keep going.
Seeing increased cases as expected. This is not a surprise. We shut down the economy, now we opened it up, so people are going about their businesses, back to restaurants, back to retail, back to shopping, and they're going to get exposed to the virus, and that's okay.
Is it though?
No!
Is it though?
It is not. Oh, I think my facial expression probably expressed what I thought.
Is it okay? Why are they arresting kids for coughing on items in the grocery store and licking things and charging them with a terrorist act? Why are they doing that with Instagrammers if it's okay that we all get infected with this? Why is that a thing even? Dr. B, why are police and DAs charging people with terrorist acts for licking groceries?
That is actually bioterrorism. That is bioterrorism.
Yes, it is. And they're being charged with that. There's several cases of that coming out where Instagrammers have been licking things and say, look, I'm licking all these groceries in the pandemic. And then they get arrested and they go viral and they get arrested and get charged with a crime. So no, Dr. B, it is not okay for us to go out and cough on each other and get sick. That's just like freaking HIV. We got those antiviral meds, man. Let's just go around and have a heyday without condoms. We can just take some PrEP, keep our viral load down, and we'll be all right. That is not what you want to do. That is not okay.
And I think it is illegal in, I don't know about America, but I'm fairly sure it's illegal to willingly, knowingly infect somebody with HIV.
Yes, it is. It's manslaughter.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
We want to protect the most vulnerable. The other problem that we've...
Why the most vulnerable? Protect everyone!
Yeah, we gotta protect them. Screw the rest of you guys. You can lay in the bed and have brain damage for 3 months. We don't care.
Yeah, no, we just worry about the most vulnerable.
Most vulnerable, yep.
Seen as we've had massive protests across the United States and rioting. Thousands of people in almost every single state.
Okay, Dr. B, there has been ample studies. There's been plenty, well, not studies. There has been ample evidence that's been presented that the protests had nothing to do with any spike in COVID-19. As most of the protests were organized, they wore masks, They had hand sanitizer stations. The organized protests did not increase any of the COVID-19 spikes. Now, this is coming from several different scientific sources with the trends and the patterns. It had the traditional regular increase that we would see. There was no spike associated with protests. So you are just wrong, sir. I'm not even going to say sir. You're just, you don't know that.
And also, the thing with the protests is they were outside. So you are more likely to be infected by COVID-19 if you are in an enclosed space, such as a house or a Trump rally. And that's the thing. If you look at the BLM protests and the situation of COVID-19 after the BLM protests versus the COVID-19 versus the Trump rallies, you will find that the Trump rallies are going to be the ones that are going to be spreading the COVID-19.
There's already numbers for that from the Tulsa rally. There's already numbers for that. And it's just, oh my God. I got to say, I'm proud of the K-pop stands. Good job on that.
Also, something else that I'll bring up is that one of the problems with the tear gas is that it causes people to cough and causes people to have tears, and it causes people to do that. And so people are going to be ripping off their masks trying to cough and get rid of this tear gas. And what does that mean? That they're going to be spreading aerosols, and COVID-19 spreads through aerosols. So
yes.
So that's one of the big problems. That's one of the biggest problems with the protests is if they didn't come out and attack peaceful protesters and put like the chances of the spread through COVID-19 would have been lessened if it wasn't for the excessive use of force by the police. So if there's going to be a spike due to the BLM protests, which, as you have correctly stated, there has not been, the chances are it's probably due to the fact of the excessive force and the use of tear gas rather than actual protesting. So
right. Yeah. I'm just.
Statter and Chris also ask, is Dr. Fauci credible, or do you think he's flip-floppy?
No, I think he's credible. All right. Just really quickly on Dr. Fauci, you've got to keep in mind, this man is walking a tightrope. Okay. He is walking a tightrope. I'm not Dr. Fauci, but I've been in a position to where if I wanted to keep my job, I had to know what I needed to say to the people so I could stay in a position to help as many people as I could. Okay. Dr. Fauci is not Dr. Birx. Okay. Dr. Birx has drunk the Kool-Aid and dove head first, and she will never be respected in the scientific community ever again. Let me just throw that out there. Dr. Fauci, he's having to navigate a giant man-child narcissist who gets personally offended because he doesn't know everything. Okay. So he's having to deal with that in addition to running his division. When, Trump fired our pandemic response team, he got rid of them. He fired them last year, right before the pandemic started. So that was great. So Dr. Fauci, in order for him to maintain his position where he's at, he has to do this balancing act. So, but look, he's been able to get on Fox News and push the correct information. He's been able to get on lots of different shows and lots of different channels and get the most basic, important information across. Now, the moment that he goes out and somebody's like, well, I disrespect him because, I don't respect him at all because he should have just grabbed that microphone and then told the world the truth. I'm like, then he would never been allowed an opportunity to speak again. He would have been fired. And how does that help anybody? The people he needs to get to are the Trump supporters who think wearing a mask is stupid and against their constitutional rights. He's got to perpetuate that. And so it's a balancing act. You have to be nice to the man-child, but at the same time, you need access to the man-child's people in order to preserve everybody else's life. So no, I think he's got a very hard job right now, and I feel sorry for him because I've been in similar, but not like this, where people are going to die if they don't listen to me. So that's something.
Matthew Randall says, maybe if I get a lab coat like he has and use some big words, I can sound just as idiotic as him. So,
there's so much science for that, actually. That's I wrote some stuff on that, on science, language, and perception. Why is it that people like Dr. Barke or whatever, or pseudoscience people, make so much money? They don't dumb it down too much, but they say enough sciencey words to where it makes it sound like that they know what they're talking about. It's fascinating. People fall for it.
All right,
all of whom were in close proximity to each other. Many of them were not wearing masks. So of course, a few weeks after these,
the Black Lives Matter, I've watched a lot of that, the footage. I remember looking at a silent protest where people just walked down the street. Every single one of them wore a mask. Every single one of them wore a mask. And all of them.
And one of the reasons why they did that is because of this crap right here. They were going to be blamed for everything that wasn't them. So it's like, no, we're all wearing a mask because we're not going to be blamed for this. And that's exactly what they're going to, and that's what they're doing now. They're blaming protests for that, which is absolutely wrong. That's not.
These protests, we're going to see a spike in cases. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. The problem with the spike in cases is not from restaurants that are all social distancing. Almost all of those restaurants now are requiring masks.
They're not. Not all the restaurants are doing it. And how are you going to enforce that? Call in more police. They're walking out right now because they want the ability to kill brown people. So I mean, there's walkouts from police departments right now across the country. How you gonna enforce that? I'm just curious, Dr. B, because it ain't working.
The problem is not retail outlets that also require social distancing. The problem was massive groups of people throughout the country not socially distancing, exposing themselves. Now, the good news is, as I watch those videos, you don't see too many 65-year-old or older in these protests. It's almost young people like you. So the
Mitt Romney did his performative act of being at a Black Lives Matter because he wants to be like, even though his racism has been studied and published about, I'm just saying, Mitt Romney's in his 70s or pushing it at least. No. And he wore a mask and he's a Republican.
Now, of the new cases that we're seeing is about 31 years old. Those are the folks that have an easy time with this virus. As a matter of fact, it's almost hard to calculate the fatality rate of people that are young that get this virus. There's
I'll let him talk a little bit longer.
So many zeros after the decimal point that it's hard to calculate.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I've been yelling. I'll take a breather.
Okay. Quick question. How can you tell if you're not freaking testing people? That's number one. Number two, mortality. Let's go back to what I mentioned earlier. Okay, so younger people might be less likely to die, but they'll still get really freaking sick. We need to concentrate on the morbidity as well. Like, mortality isn't we shouldn't, like, mortality is bad, don't get me wrong, but why do people not think about the illness, the actual, that's sort of like, it almost speaks to the friggin', what is it, anti-vaxxers.
It's the same mentality as anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, it talks to the, only 1 in 1,000 kids die of, 1 in 2,000 kids die of measles. Yeah, but you've also got 2 in 1,000 kids who have severe neurological disorders for the rest of their lives. You've also going to send your kids through a really nasty disease. Stop thinking only about the mortality. It's just, anyway, you go. Hang on.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's only so many zeros. You can still count that. You don't just say, "Hey, we're not gonna." He doesn't math so great, but neither does our president, who said for the 1 out of 100th time, he can't even. Okay. He can't even or odd for that matter, I guess, because that's math. But Dr. B here, we've already got funding cut for testing. Trump is removing funding for testing across the U.S. So that means all the free testing sites are going to go away. And so, the cases are going to go away. I mean, and so since we won't be testing so much, it's going to look like we don't have it, but we will still have it, and people will still be going to the hospital. But it's just, and if you're not testing, if you're not doing contact tracing, if you're not going around actively doing, we should be doing PCR and antibody testing freaking everybody. If there's people who have antibodies but had no symptoms, we need to look into that. So it's like, oh my God. What kind of I don't have a PhD. I don't have an MD, but my God, I'm smarter than this man. And it's like, I've been an MD for 30 years. Well, so has Ben Carson. So what? That doesn't mean you're smart in everything. And if you're a general practitioner, that's fine. You're the broad master of all trades, and then you go to a specialist. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh my God.
Nathan Jasper makes a really good point. Young people get old people sick.
Yes, that too. But hey, no, we've put them all in boxes over in back in the back. I guess he's saying we should take all of the sick or the people with pre-existing conditions and the elderly and just put them in a hole somewhere, and the rest of us go on about our lives, because screw those guys. They don't deserve to go and do things.
Yeah, because they aren't also a part of a social species, and this is being locked away by themselves continuously is not stressful at all for these people.
We'll just put 3 old people together. They'll never fight. They don't need to go. We'll just say, y'all just stay home. We'll come see you, but we're gonna have to wave out here. And we'll have food sent to you, but be certain to heat it up a bit longer and wash your hands before you eat. How is it that all of the people with pre-existing conditions are suddenly not allowed to have life like everybody else?
Yeah.
I mean, that's ableism to me, which really makes me angry. So
I'll keep going.
CDC just yesterday came out and said the fatality rate in total is about 0.4%. What does that mean? Well, in comparison to influenza, that is somewhere around...
It's not the flu. Stop it right now. I'm so sick of this. We have vaccines for the freaking flu. So people so can you imagine how horrible it would be if we didn't have vaccines? But we have vaccines for the flu, and there's multiple strains of the flu. And the people who manage to get a vaccine and still get sick, they got a different version. So it's quit comparing it to the flu. It is not the same.
Is the flu a coronavirus?
No. The cold is. The cold is a form of coronavirus. The flu is not. So as far as that, the flu, as far as I know, is not a coronavirus. I have to double check that, but play it out while I double check that, because I want to be right.
There's a couple of things I've seen on the chat. Nathan Jasper says, a friend of mine was on a ventilator, been off a few days. He's still not cognizant. He's under 50. Nathan Jasper also says, polio is fine, really. Walk it off, pussy. Which I think is quite funny.
Influenza, nope, is not coronavirus. I just wanted to double check it is not. So, oh God, yeah, freaking polio. All you little whatever.
Okay, going on.
0.15 or 0.2%. So the overall fatality rate, at least based on current data, is higher than influenza. But what we're seeing is every week, as we do more testing, as we get more data, the fatality rate is dropping. And the fatality rate for a young person...
Oh my God. Okay. Jesus effing Christ. When you get more of a data sample, your percentages are going to change. When you're testing more people, the percentages change. I mean, that's fraction math. That's not even algebra. That's third grade math. Okay. That is like third or fourth grade math, primary school math. You divide this number, the larger the bottom number gets, the smaller the percentage is. Yes, so the fatality rate's going to drop because we were testing more people and saying, okay, so this is great that the fatality rate is smaller, but we also have to track which version they have. We have to see where is it the asymptomatic people, so we're not testing enough. We're not contact tracing. We're not getting enough information. So it is a flat number that's not entirely helpful. But to sit here, well, the fatality rate's dropping. Well, because we're testing more people. Everybody's going to get this frickin' virus. I promise you, we're all going to get it in some form. But it would be a good idea to not get it and get the vaccine first. But that's why we're trying to not spread it, because we don't know enough about it. I'm worried because I'm really glad that probably, how does he do with dosage on medication? Oh, yeah, that's right. He overprescribed and was sued for that. Whatever. He doesn't math great, does he?
Clearly. Also, even just basic statistics, like the N value. So that's like the number of tests or the number of whatever. The higher your N value, the more accurate the statistic is going to be. So if, let's say you tested 10 people and one person was an outlier, then they're going to skew by 10%. But if you have 100,000 people and you had one outlier, it's only going to skew by 0.01 or whatever percent. So as you said, the percentage is going to go down, and that's just pure statistics. The fact of the matter is, people are dying. People are getting sick. People's lives are being ruined. It's just going to be like 6 million of us. It's fine. Don't worry. The U.S. has got this. We can just chunk bodies out and bury them in our football fields, While and we got lots of NBA, what is it? It's not NBA, that's basketball. I don't do the sports so great. NFL, it's those people. We got lots of football films. So that's plenty of places to store the bodies, man. They're just, temporary graves if we need to. We'll get all poltergeist up in there. It'll be great. Make a new Steven Spielberg film or something.
Way below that of influenza. As a matter of fact, a young person has less than 25 years old, you have a 50 times greater risk of dying from drowning than you do from dying from COVID-19, and a much higher risk of dying from an automobile accident than you do from COVID-19.
They're not contagious!
Do you know that there's a correlation between pool drownings and Nicolas Cage films?
Yeah, he should stop making films.
He should stop making films because more people die in pools when he does that. It's not contagious. And here's the other thing, Dr. B. If you get in enough car wrecks, they take your license away. Let's use that. If you drunk drive, they put you in jail. Okay? It's, that you go around, hey, I'm not going to wear a mask and I'm going to be angry. One person can conceivably infect 10 people, and then those 10 people infect 10 more. You're getting into exponential math. This isn't, a thing where there's it shouldn't be, I'm going to run the risk of getting a virus that may or may not kill me. We don't know by going and buying some eggs at the store down the street. That's not an acceptable risk. And if I get sick from somebody who doesn't wear a mask and is coughing all over the place. I mean, they're being reckless. There's no legalities associated with that. And if I have a pool in my backyard and I don't have a fence up and some kid wanders into my backyard and drowns, I'm responsible because I didn't put a fence up. I didn't put in protective measures. I didn't put signs up. I am responsible for involuntary manslaughter. There's absolutely no legalities associated with COVID-19 right now, except for if I cough in somebody's face or lick their groceries, I'm going to go to jail for terrorism. That's it. So no, it is not the same. Dr. B needs to sit down and be quiet. He makes me mad.
Okay. And if we want to play logical fallacy bingo, this is a non sequitur, or a I can't remember it. But yeah, non sequitur. Anyway, continuing on.
Not closing swimming pools. Don't give Governor Newsom any ideas. And we're certainly not shutting down the freeways. As a matter of fact, me driving out here today, one of the advantages of what's going on right now, no traffic. That was awesome.
That is true. When we went to shut down, my travel time between clients, I work with people with disabilities, just plummeted, and it was really, really nice to take 20 minutes to get to a client where it's usually half an hour. So personally, can I request everyone who doesn't have to work, can work from home, please stay at home just for me, please.
I'm staying home just for you, and I'm in another country, so
Thank
it's fine.
you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that actually is but now traffic's starting to start up
a
again,
little bit.
because
It's still not as bad.
because they were opening the economy open again, like you said.
Exactly.
Restaurants are opening, which is also funny because every single restaurant I've gone to, they make me wear my mask and social distance.
Right.
And they should.
Yes, they need to. Chad.
It's definitely not the restaurants.
He's like, yo, dude, bro, we're totally going to get smashed at the front on this weekend, And he'd be one of the people that would have a frat party and invite everybody over. We're going to have a COVID party, guys. It's going to be totally lit. And then he's going to get hammered and everybody's going to get sick and 4 of them will die. Whatever, Chad.
Yeah. And there are COVID-19 parties going on. There was a church where this woman sent her immunocompromised daughter to COVID-19, and this girl's died. So
the mother should go to jail, and everybody who participated should be, in my opinion, charged with involuntary manslaughter. That's crap. I'm sorry, Chad Hall. I don't mean you. Chad Hall is not one of the frat boy Chads.
Chad Hall is awesome. Chad Hall has been great.
Chad Hall, be cool. I'm sorry.
Okay, Amiga Nuts made a calculation. So total confirmed over total deaths. So that number over that number is 0.0443. That's 4% by my math, not 0.04%.
Yeah, we know Dr. B can't do math. That's clear. That's why Trump likes him so much. They have that in common.
Things. And they were starting to open things back up, and now they want to close everything down again. We saw
Yes, because there's a spike.
Yes, we're up 50% in lots of different states in daily cases. So
there's 50,000 plus people are getting it every single day in America.
It's more than that. Those are just the ones that are tested. That's what's scary. Those are just the ones that are tested.
50,000 plus per day. And for us, it's, in Australia, if it's 10 or 20 per day, it's oh shit.
Increase in cases in places like Texas and Florida. And they're saying right now Orange County as well.
Yes,
Are the hospitals overrun in these places?
No, they're not overrun.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. You lying sack of doo-doo. You stupid poop spackled fart muppet. They are all overrun. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. He is a liar. He is a liar. He is just a flat out liar. He's a flat out liar. How can anybody sit there and claim to be, first of all, do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath, and is sitting here spouting out all this garbage. He's like a Dr. Oz wannabe. He's not even cool enough to be Dr. Oz level, but he's just as terrible because he's not Dr. Oz. People are like, well, at least he's not Dr. Oz. Well, he kind of is. Oh my God.
And also, did everyone else notice the fact that the states that he talked about were Republican, were red states?
Yes.
And there's one thing that's been going on is that a lot of the blue states have been hit hard, and first is because a lot of those blue states have international airports. They have a higher grouping of people, like, the population density is higher. But the lag from the blue states to the red states is due to that sort of thing. And now if you look at the red states, they are spiking and they are peaking in the same way that the blue states did. So
another interesting thing to look at is the socioeconomic aspects of that. A lot of the southern red states have a high rate of poverty, have a high rate of government assistance. There's one zip code in Tennessee that has the infant mortality rate that rivals that of a third world country. And yet they have some of the most advanced medicine available. There's, in Tennessee, you got St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. You have all kinds of just amazing different medical technologies that come out of Tennessee that are not accessible to people in poverty. And so it's just the socioeconomic, the socioeconomic factors are just, you just can't ignore them. A lot of people don't have access to medicine. A lot of people don't have minimum wage jobs, and a lot of people are on government assistance. So, there's a high there's a disproportionate amount of Black and brown people who are dying from COVID-19 versus white people. A lot of that's in the red states. So you're even dealing with a bit of racism here too. So it's just,
yeah.
Obviously, I know my hospital system the best, and that's Hoag Hospital. They're not overrun. So what's happening?
Okay, so it is this doctor. He is, okay, so the Hoag Hospital, okay, guys. He is a doctor who was in, this confirmed it for me, I wasn't certain, but Dr. Jeffrey Barke, MD, was sued, I think, for wrongful death and overprescribing medications that led to the death of somebody. So just so you know, this is the guy, Hoag Hospital. Fantastic, Dr. Barke. You're already on my list.
Crystal K goes, I love when people say, well, we shut everything down and it just got worse, so why stay shut down? Do we really need to respond to that?
Oh, it got worse. It's kind of like, well, I think there was a running joke that there was a running joke about all the pregnancies that would occur from the quarantine. So there would be what was like quarantines. So in like 15 years, they would be quarantines, all the babies. So if we shut down, that just means more babies are going to happen. So we can't do that. But that would actually be a thing that you could consider. That would be kind of accurate.
Stuttering Chris says, can we trust the doctors who go on Joe Rogan too? Probably not. Just, again, and this is an opportunity for you to be able to go, you need to figure out and advocate for your own understanding. You need to be able to advocate to understand, to realize that everything you hear and read, you need to verify yourself. Even what we say, what Mel and I are saying, you need to go and figure it out yourself. Anyway, we shall continue on.
If you and I walked out of here and you fell and hit your head and you ended up in an emergency department, they would test you for COVID. And if you were to test positive for COVID, even though you have no symptoms, you're now a hospitalization for COVID-19. That's what we're seeing. In addition, we've now opened up healthcare facilities for what was previously shut down as considered non-essential. So somebody now going in for shoulder surgery or knee replacement surgery or whatever it is automatically tested for COVID-19. And if they're in the hospital and they test positive, it's a hospitalization for COVID-19. So we're seeing less emergency room visits for acute illness. We're seeing less ICU admissions. That's what I mean. We're seeing more people coming into the hospital for the elective procedures and so forth that were previously deemed.
All right, I've got to stop that because I probably went over the 7 seconds. Yeah.
That's a
Do you want to comment?
Okay, I'll comment quickly. I could rant all day if you let me, so I won't do that too much. But that's not what they do. They only admit you if you have life-threatening symptoms. And if you're there for a surgery, what they will probably do is just send you home and say, I'm sorry, we can't do that right now. You're positive for COVID-19. You have an active infection. Please call us if you have X, Y, or Z. Even on the CDC, even on the CDC website, you can do a personal screening and see if your symptoms warrant going to the hospital or not. They don't want you there unless you have debilitating symptoms. It's not that they don't want you there, but they're saying don't go unless you have symptoms that are life-threatening. It says this on the CDC website. So Dr. B is wrong. Again, what's new?
Non-essential, and the length of hospitalizations for COVID patients is dramatically reduced because we're a lot better at treating this.
In terms of the masks actually helping.
Okay, you're shaking your head, or
it just makes me mad. See, this is why I don't debate people, because they say stupid things sometimes, and then I go, did I make that face out loud? That's all.
Because we're a lot better at treating this.
In terms of the masks actually helping stop the virus, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't want to get too controversial. The math.
I think you already are, mate.
I don't want to get controversial about it. You mean the fact that you can't do it? Okay.
Mask issue has really been
0.04% is the same as 4%, and percentages get bigger, or smaller because numbers get bigger. Well, yes, you can't math.
Beat up. My personal opinion is masks have very little utility in prevent.
Let's keep it. Let's let him bury himself, and then we can
get 5 seconds.
Preventing the spread of the virus. For starters, most people have no idea how to wear a mask. So if you just watch.
That is true. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. And so he is blaming the stupidity of America. Well, they can't wear a mask, right? So why bother? Well, we need to normalize the fact that they need to wear it correctly. And they do know how to wear a mask correctly, but they don't want to do it because nobody is pressing the fact that this is extremely serious. They're like, oh,
Watch people with their masks on. Notoriously, they're every 30 seconds, they're touching it, they're adjusting it, they're scratching their nose. And as soon as you do that, you render the mask basically useless.
Wrong. The reason why you wear the mask is to prevent you from sending it to other people. Now, we all understand humans are disgusting. Their hands are gross, but we wash our hands. We have hand sanitizer. So your mask isn't useless because you touch it. It's not useless because it's keeping your germs in your face. Okay, that's what it's doing. It's keeping your germs in your face, Dr. B. And I really want to punch yours. I'm not a bad person, but still, my goodness, it's not useless. Yeah, you touch it, so what? Those are your germs, okay? Now, it might, if you double up and use certain tight woven type of materials, you reduce your risk of getting COVID. I double up on my masks, but that doesn't mean the risk is zero. You lower your risk of getting infected with it by doing that. But if you're washing your hands, you're going to be fine.
And also, one of the things that I really, this happens a lot. Everyone's like, oh, well, if it's not 100% safe, then why bother? And it's like, because it's 99% safe or 98% safe. Why does it only have to be safe 100% of the time?
It's like condoms. Condoms are 98 to 99%. You're going to let somebody, somebody enter you, possibly having the HIV, the syphilis, HPV, any of that, hey, it's not 100% safe, guys. Have a free for all.
Why bother? It's like, well, crossing the street is more often than not. It's just like, why? You are likely to get hit by a car if you can get hit by a car if you cross the street. But does that mean you stay on one little square of land for the rest of your life?
You can get hit by an airplane. If you stay on that square, you increase your risk of getting hit by a rando airplane coming down at that spot if you never leave your square.
Exactly. And then Godzilla will come out and eat you. There's still that risk.
There's still, and ninjas could crash through my window right now, or pirates or somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always the risk of that happening.
So, mitigation of risk. Mitigation of risk is the thing that we're talking about.
You'll lower your risk.
In addition, there's been several studies, not for COVID, but for influenza and the common cold, looking at the ability of a mask.
People don't wear masks with the flu because we have vaccines for that, okay? And we have Tamiflu. We have antivirals that reduce the symptoms, like within 4 days. If you take it's not a killer like COVID is for a lot of you. Stop it, Dr. B.
Asked to prevent infection. The conclusion was they don't work very well. Nobody's done studies on COVID yet, but we're speculating.
Then why COVID is category error? COVID. Oh, okay. First of all, and second,
they've done aerosol studies. There are studies you can look up on the transmission of aerosol droplets of COVID-19. Hey, guess what? If I cover my face, there's less spew coming out. There's less juice coming out my mouth. It's being caught by the thing that's over my face.
Yeah, and also there have been countries where, like the Asian countries where because of SARS and MERS, where they were hit by those diseases, there's been a massive social thing where everyone's encouraged to wear masks if you get sick. And so these countries, as soon as COVID hit, they were like, whoop, all of them, just, huge 90% plus of people taking it. These countries have had very significantly less problems than the countries that haven't had masks. So you're wrong, Mr. B. You're wrong.
That if you wear a mask, it may offer some protection. And we believe that there's some false sense of security by having a mask over our face, even though there's very little scientific evidence to support that.
Is there...
And by the way, thank you, Mr. Bear, for sending a super chat for debunk the dumb. We are doing our best. Mel, would you like to say something?
I just, I don't even want to call him Dr. B anymore. I think, Mr. is better because, I don't think he deserved. Well, I mean, he went to school. Yeah, you went to school. Yeah, you're not that stuff, Dr. B. But I just I'm disappointed in you. I'm really disappointed in you. I cannot imagine having you as my doctor because I would run the other way.
All right. So B-Sub says, I have kidney cancer, but I wear a mask because I'm not a twat.
That sounds like a t-shirt. Don't be a twat. Twat. Don't be a twat. Wear a mask. You know, there you go. That's a t-shirt for you, Nervardians.
Yeah, I wear a mask because I'm not a twat. All right, let's continue on. We've got like another minute and a bit of my form, and then we'll just, because this has gone for a while, but I have been thoroughly enjoying this.
Data to show that if I am at the grocery store and I see that old woman and I don't have my mask on, that I'm, more likely to give it to her?
Well, the data shows clearly if you are ill with the virus and you sneeze or cough directly in her face, that's how she's going to get the virus.
Oh my God. Okay, stop a second. Okay, this virus is in droplets that are smaller than your standard aerosols. Okay, they can hang in the air for a little bit. So if you don't have, even if you have high circulation going on in a grocery store, you're blowing all that all over the place. Okay, you're spreading it out. So it's an enclosed space. It's not open air. Even if you're jogging and you got some, if it's not particularly windy, it can still hang in the air for a little while it's not airborne. The aerosol droplets that the virus exists in are so small that they can hang in the air for a little while longer. So no, Dr. B, you can have it just hanging there if there's not heavy circulation, even if there is, and it's just spreading the COVID juice everywhere. And you can just walk into a face full of it. So it's like, no, it's not okay.
Out of curiosity, can you explain what an aerosol is? Because a lot of people are confused what the difference between airborne and aerosol is.
Okay, an aerosol. So if you were to like take if you were to spray your plants with some water, and it has like the tiny little droplets of water that come out. There's different sizes of aerosols. You can have big droplets, you can have smaller droplets, you can have little nano-sized droplets of water. And so what happens is COVID can live in solution. It lives in solution, so to speak. So because of the type of membrane that it has, it's like a plasma membrane type of thing where it's made up of lipids. So there's lots of fats. It's like a fat little bubble that has all the stuff inside of it that makes you sick with little proteins sticking out of it. So that can exist inside of water droplets. Now, the size of the droplet. Now, you guys probably been in a rainstorm where you got this huge, gosh, look at those raindrops. Those are huge. It's like, and they're pounding down on your roof or whatever. And then you might have like a light dew, where you walk out in the morning and it's a little bit of dew. It's like, just hanging around. The virus can live in like the dew-like thing, okay, to where it's teeny tiny little droplets of water that just kind of hang around in the air, kind of like humidity a little bit. And so they can stay in the air. I think it's a few hours. So it's a few hours. So they're being blown around places. You could have somebody coughing on aisle 3 without a mask. If there's enough central air circulation going around, it can blow over to a couple of aisles over and you get a face full of COVID juice. So that's why masks are important, because it isolates it and limits the amount of spray everywhere. So you have less particles around you and it's mostly in your mask. So that's kind of the whole point of that.
And what about airborne? So is there a difference between aerosol spread and airborne?
Yeah, airborne, they don't need water to hang around in. They're small enough to where they can just blow in the wind, and they're light enough to where they can be carried that way.
So like fungi, like fungal sort of things.
Yeah, like pollen. Pollen is an example of that. It doesn't have to be in water. It can just spread around. Oh, God, I hate pollen. Trees need to learn consent instead of having sex with my nose all the time.
Exactly.
Little data to support asymptomatic spreading, meaning that you've got the virus, you have no symptoms, and this visual of people walking around crop dusting the population because you have the...
That's how it works.
Yes, and he says there's not a lot of evidence for asymptomatic spread. How do you think it spread? Because people didn't know they were sick. And so they went and did their own thing, and all of a sudden, everyone around them are getting sick. That is how diseases spread. There's an asymptomatic...
That's how measles spreads? You know, measles can hang in the air for like 3 hours. So measles, you could have somebody in an elevator carrying measles, not knowing that they're infected, and it will hang in that elevator for 3 hours. So everybody who uses that elevator is being exposed to measles. So it's COVID similar. You can be asymptomatic, not have any symptoms. And we're finding out that a lot of asymptomatic cases have long-term health effects that didn't show up till much later. And they're like, oh, hey, look, I have brain issues. What the heck happened? Oh, you got the Rona. Oh, that's great. I didn't know I had it. But you can still spread it. So...
We'll do
Oh my God.
go for a little bit longer. I'll go. All right, we'll stop torturing you after the next part, because it's gone. We've got about a minute.
The virus but don't know it just isn't accurate. So if you're sick, don't go to the grocery store. And if you're sick, putting a mask on to prevent your spread to others is not going to help that much. The best way that you can prevent the spread to other people if you're ill is to stay home.
He's right for that last sentence. The last sentence is, stay home if you are sick.
That's it. That's the only correct thing out of this entire thing. Stay home. Stay home. Don't go swimming in a pool because you might drown. Don't get in a car either, and stay home, right? Because that all is connected somehow with the flu and a cold. He makes me nuts.
He does. He makes me nuts too. All right, well, let's wrap this up. The timestamp is 10:28. So on Monday, imaginary person time, i.e. Australian time, and Sunday, your time, we'll join up and do part 2 of torturing our people. I will link that. I will link in the description. I'll actually link it in the pinned comment.
Okay.
When it does happen. So if anybody comes back in a few days' time and goes, oh, I want to watch that, you should be able to find it. And anyway, Mel, who are you? And I apologize for taking you through this. Who are you? What are you? Where are you? Why are you? How are you? That sort of thing.
See, existential crisis time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a grown-up, and the cake is a lie. They said this adulting would be great. It's not. So I'm Scientist Mel. That's me on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. I have a website, scientistmel.com. I make content, science communicator content. I do stuff for universities, teachers, and I work with nonprofit. I'm going to have a new thing I'm doing with a nonprofit organization. I can't talk about it yet, but I am also affiliated with Taste of Science, tasteofscience.org, which is a nationwide science communication type of, they do monthly events and stuff. So they've moved into the streaming world. So I'm affiliated with them. So do check that out. And then I'll have more information about the other thing. I'll be doing monthly content for another nonprofit organization. Yay. So watch if you want to. If you don't, that's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
It does. Secretly, it does. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Meredith. My channel's name is Navadia. I do stuff. A lot of science, a lot of atheist, and some advocacy kind of stuff. So please like, share, subscribe, ring bell, yada yada yada. Amiga Nuts is doing an amazing job shilling everybody who's in the chat. So thank you so much to everybody who is currently in the chat for going through. Thank you for hanging out, and I hope you all had a fun time. bashing your head against walls. Please go, if you have done that, please make sure that you are fine. Stay safe, everyone. Wear your masks, wash your face, hands, hand sanitizer, stay at home, look after
Wash your
yourself.
clothes.
Everything. And yeah, anyway, don't forget, don't give yourself the raw prawn.